freedoms.
A top White House aide now warning that even sending U.S. military assistance would be unlikely to stop Russia's invasion of eastern Ukraine. Now, all of this coming as NATO's top commander warns that after annexing Crimea, Russia could be eyeing the takeover of another separatist region of Moldova just south of Ukraine. Joining us now, Stephen Yates, former Deputy Assistant to Vice President Dick Cheney for National Security Affairs, distinguished fellow at the Hamilton Foundation. Mr. Yates, always good to see you. Today, Mitt Romney called President Obama's view of Russia naive. Others, as you know, have said the same. But what's your opinion of how the president has responded to Putin's acts of aggression?
Well, to date, Greg, I don't think he has responded. I mean, really, if you look at what Putin is doing, we don't get to know what's in his head or why he's doing what he's doing. We can just look at recent evidence where he has been threatened with diplomatic isolation, which I think is the most worthless of talking points. He has been threatened with sanctions. He's been threatened with other kinds of consequences. None of that deterred him from taking this action, which is much more stark than I think the diplomatic talk of it has been. We've got a major nation state stealing territory and military material from a neighboring sovereign state. Right. And the NATO commander basically saying a very, very large military poised to take further action, and we don't get to know when or how it may.
Do you expect Putin to move into and seize parts of Ukraine, east southern Ukraine, or a part of Moldova to the south, formerly part of the Soviet Union? And frankly, given the U.S. action so far, what is there to stop Putin?
Very little to stop him, but he may just choose to cool it for a bit and wait until people are less ready. Not that they're terribly ready to resist at this point, but it's really all of the initiative and advantages in his hands at this moment. Really, we need to be doing much, much more to reawaken Europe. They are the ones who have lessened their investment in their own military. They are the ones who are not standing by their own neighbors at this point.
Well, let me ask you about that, because President Obama has an upcoming European visit. Should he commit to steps that will make European nations energy independent within 5 years so Putin can no longer exert influence or otherwise control Europe economically? And would that, in the end, help Putin, deter Putin from, his long-term strategic interests of expanding Russia?
I think we need to move in that direction. It's a questionable proposition that it would change his near-term calculus, because this would be a long-term shift. But the United States really should be looking at taking aid from, say, countries that hate us, like Pakistan, and reallocating some of that aid to Central Europe and Eastern European countries that want to preserve their independence and move in the direction of energy from reliable partners in North America, as opposed to those that would seek to turn it on and off from Russia.
Was it wrong when the new president of Ukraine came to the White House and asked for military assistance for the Obama administration to say, well, we'll give you MREs, meals ready to eat, but that's it?
That was breathtaking to me, because, we've lived through a history. People don't want to go back to the Cold War, but we don't often get to choose what the strategy is of the opposing side. There was a time when we cared more, when we would have supported our allies, but we have two problems. We have a lack of mission and vision on our part, and Europe itself has had this lack of vision to take care of its own in recent decades. That has to change.
If Russia pursues with vigor its current course, what is Vladimir Putin capable of doing, and could it push Europe and the United States closer to the precipice of war?
Well, I think that he goes much further in these territorial expansion, and we are at the precipice of some kind of war. I don't think that the remaining parts of Ukraine are going to just lie down and accept encroachment. I think Poland and the Baltics are very, very nervous at this point. Others would be too. The United States has an historical average of 0% chance of staying out of a European conflict. And so if he is not deterred, dissuaded, otherwise moved away from this objective, the United States is at risk of being involved in one form or another.
Do we need to rearm, reinvigorate NATO? And not only that, is it vital to our national security interests that we reinstitute the European missile defense system, which Obama abandoned?
I think that we should be reinstituting all of the elements of the reset, where we basically made concessions to Russia on the expectation they would become a strategic partner. That would include the missile defense sites, but it would also include returning to an assessment of our military needs and our alliance needs that go back to prior to the reset period.
Stephen Yates, pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, Greg.